the answer to the big questions. Who am I? What is my place in the universe? And how do I maintain that place? And we go to the history. And so the very first official philosopher in our Western tradition, and by the way, when we talk about Western, did I talk about that at all? Okay, because teaching the Western tradition has gotten bad press for a while, because everybody wants us to have more diversity and look at other philosophies and so on. So instead of just teaching Western, well, the Western tradition is actually not just Western. The Western tradition is what did you typically learn in a philosophy course, and and in the West, right? And so what they did is they taught you Greek philosophy. Well, Greek philosophy isn't Western, right? You get lots of different philosophies all the way up like through the Middle Ages and so on. But you don't officially have the West thinking of itself as the West until Descartes, maybe, right? And we didn't even really teach philosophy this way until Hegel, which is almost the end of the Enlightenment period. So when we talk about Western philosophy, what we're talking about is the way that they typically teach philosophy in the West. But you're not just getting European philosophy. I mean, Europe wasn't even there yet, in an abstract sense. So Thales is considered to be the first philosopher. I think his name means water, but it also, the verb thalo means I want to die. If you remember the poem that T.S. Eliot writes, the very beginning, he uses a Greek poem, and it's all about the goddess that ended up being stuck in a little jar. But in any case, Thales, he's from Miletus, which is in Turkey. And he was famous for a bunch of things. He was considered one of the 7 wise men of Greece. And he thought that the arche is like the arch of the universe. What everything is made from, he said, was water. The next generation, Anaximenes, is also from Miletus, and he believes that Thales is on to something, but he thinks it would be air, would be the main building block of everything. Because air is thinner than water, right? Then you get Anaximander, who believes that it's not just air, it's the infinite. And the Greeks didn't really like that, because the infinite hurts everybody's head. Heraclitus is from, I think, Ionia, and he argues that the arche is change or fire. He uses fire as the metaphor, but basically he says everything keeps flowing. You can't step into the same river twice because it's not the same river the second time. You're not the same person the second time you step in. Everything keeps changing. So change, fire is his icon basically for it. Then you get Anaxagoras, who uses the concept of mind. Everything is nous. It's all mind. I like when people today, the scientists all say that everything is information. All the physics and everything else, all the particles and everything, it's all information. Very close, actually, to that. Pythagoras is famous. Everyone's familiar with the Pythagorean theorem, which we now know he stole from Egypt, because they had it like 1,000 years before him, right? But his arche was number. Everything consists of 1. Take 1 and you add it to itself, and you get 2 and 3, etc., etc. So everything is number. 1 by itself is air. 2 by itself is fire. 3 by itself is water. 4 by itself is solid something, etc. So all kinds of interesting ideas there. Parmenides is neat. Pythagoras means speaking out in the agora, which is the marketplace. That's funny because he was supposed to have secrets in a secret society. So that seems just the opposite, actually. Parmenides, para means two, and two of the same ideas, or conflicting ideas. So Parmenides means you have two conflicting ideas. You have to believe both of them. So for example, you have the universe, which is one thing, but it's broken up into many parts. How on earth does that work? That's true of your water bottle. That's one thing, your water bottle, but it's broken up into many parts. That's hard. How do we figure that out? It seems like a conflict. Zeno was a follower of Parmenides, and Zeno is the one you might have heard some of Zeno's paradoxes. He takes off after Parmenides, and you get the idea of the archer that shoots the arrow, and the arrow goes to the target. To get to the target, it has to go halfway, and half that way, half that way, half that way, half. And it's an infinite number of stops. So actually the arrow it can't move. There's no way it can get to the target. It can't go anywhere. Officially, in mathematics, motion isn't explained, as far as I know. Can't move in mathematics. The infinite's a pain in the butt, actually. So Zeno. He also does the one with Achilles racing the tortoise, and the tortoise has a head start, and every moment Achilles catches up by half. Well, of course, you see the dilemma. Eventually, he keeps getting so close to that tortoise, but there's always another half to go. So Achilles never makes it to catch up to the tortoise. That's a fun puzzle, right? Empedocles puts a whole bunch of them together, and he gives us a perfect name for a band: Earth, Air, Fire, Water. Actually, what's the name of the band? Earth, Air, Fire?
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I never get that right. And that's kind of cool. Democritus, or Democritus, they pronounces atoms. Atom means uncuttable. So tom means cuttable, but a means not. So you can't cut this any further. That's as small as it gets. Can't break it up in any other parts. Following that, you ended up with the sophists, and the sophists are Sophia means wisdom, and they're wisdom teachers. Socrates probably had a wisdom teacher himself. They think it was Protagoras, and Protagoras is famous for giving us man is the measure, and what that apparently means is we decide what's right and wrong. Man is the measure of things. So when we all vote, we vote on it. We decide what's right and what's wrong. We decide what's true and what's false. It's also thought of by many as relativity. A lot of people feel relativity is just, that's wrong because it means nothing's right. Which actually, if it's right that nothing is right, that's right. So that's wrong. I mean, if nothing is right, it's a paradox, right? And the person that says that there's nothing that's true, is that true? Yes.
I mean, when I was reading Euthyphro, that sounds like what Socrates is doing. Like they're going back in this recursive argument. It's like there's no end somewhere.
He's annoying.
You got to draw a line, right?
Euthyphro takes off, pissed off.
It was
He
annoying.
gives up his, yeah. But it seems to work. So when you have a priest tell you, God told me such and such, how do I know to trust you? You're probably psychotic. Let's figure this out. Let's go to the authorities. Who are the authorities? They're people that are just trying to figure it out too. Believe it or not, I'm considered an authority. I have news for you. I don't know nothing. But like Socrates, I know that I don't know anything, I'm not fooled into thinking that I do know stuff when I don't know it. So I'm better off than the people that think they know stuff but are wrong. It's kind of fun. Actually, I do know stuff. I know how to start my lawnmower. I know that's not grass. That is a mushroom. Do not eat that mushroom. It might be poisonous, but I don't know. Okay, so there were predecessors to Socrates. And Socrates has his own student, and that student is Plato. And so we're reading Plato to find out about Socrates. And the first third of the Platonic dialogues are supposed to really describe Socrates. So the Euthyphro is considered one, the Apology is definitely considered one. But eventually Plato starts writing dialogues where Socrates is the one that knows all the answers. So people are saying things like, gee, Socrates? How late do we go? We have another 15 minutes, right? There's a great video with Steve Martin. It's supposed to be the death of Socrates, but I don't want to play it. You could play it at home, but it would take us about 8-10 minutes. But in any case, at a certain point, Socrates now knows all the answers. Quite a shift, and everybody's very happy with all of his answers. So that whole asshole tension that you get in the early dialogues is gone. What happened? Well, the theory is that Plato is still using Socrates as the main character in the dialogues, but now Plato has developed a philosophy called idealism, right? And he's teaching that philosophy. So what we have is Platonic idealism. And what is it? Idealism is the idea, and that's where we get it from, actually. In Greek, the word idea literally seems to mean the perception of something. So the thing that you're seeing, you think, I have an idea of that wall, right? But Plato does something different with it, and he makes it an abstract concept. In fact, that's what he does with all of the ideas, that they're abstract concepts that we have in our mind. And because they're in our mind, and they're invisible, you can't see them and so on, right? They actually aren't part of the earth. The earth is made up of matter, all this stuff, right? But the abstract ideas are not part of the earth. They're part of the infinite, right? The infinite's not. So you have two things. You have kind of a spiritual world, abstract world, the ideas, and you have a physical world. The reason that we recognize things as we're going around on the earth is because we know the ideas, and when I see things like a desk or a person, I think I know that's a person because I know the idea, and so therefore I know that that's a person. So the physical things participate in the idea, but they're always imperfect. Only the idea itself is perfect. So there's a perfect human being. Now, if you go to the Da Vinci thing at the fair, which one is it? Vitruvian. I want Vitruvian. Okay. So you've seen that. By the way, that's considered by many people to be Da Vinci himself. It's a self-portrait. So that's just fun. But also, the proportions are ideal based on a particular thing called So the golden ratio. I think later on in the class I'll ask you about that, as I forget. But so golden ratio. So if you notice, as your teeth move from one tooth to the next, it goes down by this ratio, and then the next one goes down by that ratio. And that ratio also maps out on your face. And well, the most famous one example of it, a Fibonacci number in history, is the seashell, the nautilus. But you see this in everything in nature, unless, except for rocks and things like that. But if it's alive, it breaks up into these ratios. And there's arguments that the most beautiful individuals kind of map to that ratio better than others, and so on. So that's kind of interesting. And Plato has solids. Remember thanks to Pythagoras, we learned from all of these folks. Pythagoras argues that, when you have solids, there are only 5. Actually, I think they invented another one. Maybe not, I forget. But there are 5 unique symmetrical 3-dimensional shapes, and there they are. And so he thinks that that's associated with matter as well. So